Well guys, this is it. This is the final X-Men movie that I'm going to review leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. Man, the last review I covered is the Wolverine, which in my opinion is a pretty underrated film. Now I'm going to end my X-Men reviews that I haven't reviewed yet with a bang, because I'm going to review probably the biggest X-Men film in the entire series, and that film is X-Men Days of Future Past. This movie came out in 2014, and this movie is directed by the return of Bryan, who directed the first two X-Men movies, and this movie has a ginormous cast, including the original cast from Hugh, Jackman, Halle, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Ellen Page, with the cast from X-Men First Class from James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, and some new people including Evan Peters and Peter Dinklage. This is going to be the last X-Men review that I haven't reviewed leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine, because I've already covered Apocalypse, the first two Deadpool movies, Logan and Dark Phoenix. I've already reviewed those on the channel, and they will be in this playlist if you want to see those reviews. They're from older reviews to older reviews, but still, I watched them and I'm like, there's nothing that changes in those reviews. So those reviews are going to be on the playlist. So this is going to be the last X-Men review that I am going to review that I haven't reviewed on this channel. And man, we're going to end it off with a great note, because of course, X-Men Days of Future Past is fantastic. When I heard that Bryan Singer is returning to direct an X-Men film, I was thinking, yes, this movie can fix the events of The Last Stand and X-Men Origins Wolverine, because those movies, of course, they're not that great of movies. And when I heard that he's going to collaborate the cast with the original cast from the first three X-Men movies and the cast of First Class, and they put them in one movie together, I was 14 at the time when this movie came out, so it was one of my most anticipated things ever, because I was an X-Men fan. I love the X-Men movies. I loved them so much, and I loved First Class. I love the original X-Men trilogy, so when I heard they're in a movie together, I find that freaking awesome. This movie took place in a very distant future, where these new robot things called Sentinels are the robots that kill off mutants. They prohibited the future, make it dystopian as fuck, and those things, seriously, the Sentinels are one of the most terrifying creatures you can possibly imagine. Because those things are kind of like indestructible and undefeatable, because they kill off mutants like boom, like one by one. So in order to defeat the Sentinels, Kitty Pryde has an ability to send people back in time to prevent events from happening. So with the original X-Men in the film, Wolverine is sent back in time to the 1970s to warn Charles Xavier, played by James McAvoy, that Mystique is going to kill off the owner of the creation of the Sentinels, which is Bolivar Trask, played by Peter Dinklage, and if she kills Bolivar Trask, the Sentinels will be invented. So of course Wolverine has to go back in time and stop that from happening. And yes, this is a time travel movie. And normally when it comes to time travel movies, things get confusing sometimes, but there are some great time travel movies, and I gotta say, X-Men Days of Future Past is definitely one of them. The time travel in this movie is pretty simple. Wolverine has to stop Mystique from killing Trask, and the future wouldn't happen. It's so simple, and the movie made it out to be simple. And guys, a lot of people said that this is their favorite X-Men movie. Like I said, my favorite is First Class. But it's like saying that Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite Indiana Jones movie, but I absolutely still love Last Crusade. That is with me with Days of Future Past. I think this is an excellent X-Men film and a great return from director Bryan Singer. He absolutely directed this movie extremely well. It's like he has never left the X-Men series. And you can tell that he regretted doing Superman Returns and just moving on from X-Men The Last Stand, because you can tell that he's fixing so many events throughout those movies that made us forget about those movies. But this movie is definitely back to, I would say, a political drama in a way, but it's more of a time travel drama. This film has action scenes, and the action scenes are great, but this movie brings back the point of what made the first two X-Men movies great. The character studies, the development of these characters, and preventing the events that are happening. And I thought the first two movies did great, and of course Days of Future Past did absolutely spectacular. Let's talk about the cast in this movie. Of course, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is fantastic as ever, and he has pretty big shoes to fill in this film, because he is the one that has to convince Charles Xavier that Mystique is going to do this and you feel like you're in Wolverine's shoes in this film, and he is great in the film as always. With the original cast being great, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry is also great in the film. Also, I would say it's an improvement from Ellen Page's Kitty Pryde, because I wasn't a fan of her in The Last Stand. Her character was much more better developed in the film and much more important to this film. But of course, this movie is collaborated with the cast from First Class, and man, the performances are getting better than ever. Michael Fassbender as Magneto is once again badass in this film. He has great moments in this film, especially towards the third act where you're like, oh no. No, Magneto, come on. Jennifer Lawrence is definitely a very important character to this film as Raven in this film because, of course, she is the one that made the future happen. But you understand her motives. You understand why she wants to kill Peter Dinklage's character because he has involvement with William Stryker basically experimenting on mutants. So you understand Mystique's motivation. She's technically like the main villain-ish in the film in a way. Well, Magneto is technically the main villain, but she is one of the main, villains type in the film. But you understand her motives, and that's what's great about these X-Men movies. The villains, you understand their motivations. Even though you really hate those villains at a couple of movies, Mystique's motivation you absolutely get. But I gotta say, with First Class, I always say Magneto is the one that stole the movie. Now it's the other way around. James McAvoy as Charles Xavier in this film. This is one of my favorite performances by James McAvoy in this film. He absolutely crushes it in this film. Of course, he's a completely broken character after the events of X-Men First Class. He is done teaching mutants. He took the serum that Hank/Beast created that makes him walk and lose his mind abilities. And you can tell he's a completely different man than he was in First Class, and it's basically about Charles Xavier learning hope again and learning to care about mutants again. That's one of the main things about this movie and one of the main themes about this movie. Hope. And I think the story arc that Charles Xavier goes through in this film is fantastic, and my god, James McAvoy's performance in this film is so strong. Much more stronger than he was in First Class. Absolutely his best performance that he has done in his entire career, involving with Split, of course. But Nicholas Hoult as Beast is really good, but man, let's talk about a scene stealer in this film. I honestly wish this character is in this movie a lot more, and that is Evan Peters as Peter Maximoff/Quicksilver. Man, this character is such a bad ass in this film. He has a mutation of super speed. And his super speed is fucking awesome in this film. Like the scene where Charles Xavier and Wolverine break Magneto out and they use Quicksilver's help. The kitchen scene where Quicksilver defeats those guards and he just goes in fast motion, but you see him normally walking, but everyone's frozen to show that he's super speed. And he moves all the bullets and stuff. Man, that scene is to me one of my favorite moments in X-Men movies. Definitely my top 5, that is for sure. I honestly wish Quicksilver could have been in the movie more, but if he was in this movie more, the movie would have ended in 5 seconds. It literally would have. So I understand why it's not in the movie all that much, but man, Evan Peters is fantastic as Quicksilver. Can we get an X-Men Origins Quicksilver movie? I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I want it to happen. I want to see his origin because he's such a cool character. But the great thing that X-Men Days of Future Past bring us is that this movie definitely has stakes. You rooted for the future to be changed. You root for Wolverine to basically prevent the future and change the future. And every single scene in Days of Future Past, I was engaged with. From the very opening scene, you're already in within the story. This has some of the best pacing that I've ever seen in an X-Men movie. Every single moment in Days of Future Past, you feel riveted with. The way the story was written, the emotional elements, the heartfelt elements, even the action scenes are great, but this is not much of an action movie per se, even though there are some great action scenes in the film. Like I said, the mutants try to defeat these Sentinels, and of course the Sentinels kill them, which creates some great, intense tension, and killing off some great X-Men characters like Iceman and Storm and stuff, that makes me go, no, Wolverine, hurry up, change the future already. And the third act, seriously, is one of the most intense moments in the X-Men movies, where Wolverine tries to go up against Magneto, and Wolverine, of course, could not defeat Magneto. So it's up to Charles Xavier to stop Mystique for killing Peter Dinklage. In that whole scene, I was literally on the edge of my seat. It's just the way it was edited, cuts back from the past and the future, and you're just like, Mystique, don't do it. Hurry up. That's what I love about Days of Future Past. It just brings so much tension. This is definitely the most intense X-Men films with Logan that I have seen in the series. And then within the ending of this film, where the future is now reset, and Wolverine is just back at the X-Mansion and seeing all these characters back from Storm, Jean Grey, and all that stuff, it's just, man, what a happy ending this movie presented. Days of Future Past is definitely a perfect X-Men film with First Class. Like, X-Men Days of Future Past is like the last crusade for me. It's still one of my favorite X-Men films in the series. It will definitely be on my top 3, that is for sure. Because the way the movie was directed, the way this movie was written is really well done. This is definitely the most emotional and intense X-Men films that I have seen in the series. And Bryan Singer, what a great return from him. I can understand people saying this is their favorite X-Men film because this is definitely one of the great ones in the series. But just the collaboration with the original cast and the new cast is fantastic. A lot of characters that stood out in this movie. This is a really good time travel movie. And also just a great X-Men movie in general. This movie has the themes of hope and getting back into the game, and this movie is just written so well. So yes, overall, Days of Future Past is definitely one of the great X-Men movies. It's definitely one of my favorite comic book movies of 2014, that is for sure. It's definitely a movie that fixes the past X-Men films, the past bad X-Men films. It's just like Bryan Singer's like, yep, this is supposed to be what X-Men 3 is, and it absolutely delivers. For a final X-Men review, X-Men Days of Future Past is a great end to it.
There is a new enemy out there. Mutants. You'll need a new weapon for this war.
I know what I have to do. It's us or them.
All those years wasted fighting each other, Charles.
I've watched a lot of people die. Friends.
We've been given a second chance.
Guide us. Lead us.
I don't want your future! We were supposed to protect them!
You're afraid. I remember.
Well guys, that is it guys. I've reviewed all the X-Men movies that I haven't got a chance to review leading up to Deadpool Wolverine, and yes, Deadpool Wolverine, I am seeing it this Saturday. Heard great first reactions to the movie. If you want to see the rest of my X-Men reviews from the ones I'm reviewing now and the ones later on, I'm creating a playlist, X-Men movie reviews. It's going to be kind of weird seeing like my old self and then my young self at a couple of videos, but they're all in order of movie release. So check out my playlist of all the X-Men reviews if you want to see the rest of my reviews. But I'm just going to give you guys one question. Yes, what you guys think of Days of Future Past, if you like the movie, hate the movie, or if it's okay. But the biggest question is, how would you rank all the X-Men movies from worst to best? Or, what is your favorite X-Men film in the series? I really want to know, guys, in the comments below, how would you rank these X-Men movies and TV shows if you want to. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below, keep contact with me, and make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, notify for my latest movie reviews and other movie-related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.